Hey everyone, welcome back. Icon here. Thanks so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today, we are hopping into hardpoint on the map Gunrunner. This is the very first map between the Chicago Huntsmen and the Los Angeles Guerrillas. So, I was a little bit surprised when I saw this map come up just because Chicago usually plays this map really well. There are a couple that they struggle at, but this is one that's definitely you would give them the advantage to. So I'm not quite sure how this one ended up getting picked, but they did spawn on the bad side. So if we look at the mini map in the bottom left-hand corner, one thing that I like to do is that as this rotates to the second hardpoint, which will be back in this warehouse, this is the spawn that you want to have. So to begin this map, Chicago is spawning out. So we'll look to see them, even though they have control of this first hardpoint, we will look to see them push through and try to capture those spawns on that side of the map. Now, as you see, they are spawning at P3 back there. So as they have died on hill, they're spawning at P3. So for the last 14 seconds here, I'm a little bit surprised to see them all rushing this P1 area. What you would like to see is somebody push through on this left-hand flank so that you could do a left spawn, right spawn sort of thing. And I'll explain that just in a little moment here. But with a 29-3 advantage as it goes back to P2, all of them, it looks like, are going to push through this right side. So you are going to have a right side versus left side matchup here as it goes to P2. So just to explain that, left side spawn is over here. That's where Chicago is spawning. Right side is on the opposite side. So this is where LA is spawning. So with this, it's just a battle for that middle hard point. So it does look like right now Chicago has that. Now, if you're Chicago, what you want to have happen is you want to try to push out that left side just a little bit further if you can. So it looks like right now somebody just snuck through. Is that Aches that I saw in hill? Can't really tell exactly, but it did look like somebody snuck through, and that's where that contest came through. But if you're Chicago, this is looking super positive because you didn't have spawns to begin P1. They were able to get the majority of the time there. They didn't have spawns as it rotated back to P2 in that back warehouse, and then they were able to get the majority of the time there. So as this rotates over to P3, you're going to look for a battle in the back over here. So as it goes to P3, as I draw this on the mini map, this is P3. P4 is over here by open cargo. P5 is over here back in this warehouse. So for all three of those hills, you want to hold this back spawn area. So that's what they're going to look to do as this wears on here, is they're just going to try to lock down that left side of the map so that as it goes to P3, 4, and 5, they have spawns for each and every one of those. I will say that for the last 30 seconds or so, this is a really nice job for LA of holding down time in this P3 area. Usually P3 is a little bit contested, and it looks like as Chicago is trying to rotate and set up spawns for P3, 4, and 5, they were able to not only thwart their push there, but they were also able to lock down a lot of the points in P3. So very optimistic if you're an LAG fan, the fact that they were able to hold that down and keep control of spawns for the next couple hard points here. Now, if you're Chicago, one thing that you have to think about is that you didn't get the majority of the time in P3, and you don't have spawns for P5. So if you're Chicago, you want to get as many of these points in P4 as you can so that when it rotates back to P5, you're not going to have the ability to get the majority of those points based on the spawn that you currently have. So you really do have to try to get the majority of those points. Now, with that, let me digress just a little bit because now spawns have flipped. So I didn't see exactly where it came through. I think, if I'm going to draw, I think I saw them push through up here by P3. So they pushed that out, and now you can see that Chicago is spawning in the area for P5. So if you're LA, now you kind of have to give this up a little bit, and you have to start pushing forward because as this rotates back to P5, so the two biggest hills on this map are P2 and P5. So if they can get control of P5 and they're able to push out a little bit, then this is going to be looking pretty difficult for LA. And just as we're watching this here, look at where LA is spawning. LA is spawning way over here. So as they're pushing up towards minecart, what's going to happen is LA is going to continue to push that, and then now that they've pushed up pretty far, this is where Chicago is going to lay. So as these teams both rotate into this choke point, that's where the battle is going to happen. Whoever can win the majority of those gun battles in the choke point, like Saints just did right there before he got traded out, is going to end up getting the most of this time on P5. So far, it's a really nice job by Envoy and Gunless. They were both able to get kills inside of P5. In boxes, that's where this battle really needs to take place. So nice job of Gunless. Gunless with a 2-piece over there by boxes. So with 14 seconds left, this is exactly what you want to see if you are a Chicago fan. Their ability to push from woods into that choke point, into boxes, the ability to get kills in there from Gunless and RCs is what allowed them to get the majority of the points back in P5. And as we rotate back into P1 to the beginning of the map, one thing you can see already is look at these 2 arrows right there. So Scump with a kill on rotations there. So as this goes from 1 to 2, it looks like they're already going to be set up. A big battle back there. Aches was able to take out Scump, but you can see that the rest of those Chicago arrows are spawning right there. So just as they did the first set of rotations, even though they didn't have spawns to begin to, Chicago was able to overtake P2 and get the majority of the time there. Again, we said this right off the beginning here. P2 and P5, those are the 2 outskirts hills. So as I draw this, P2, P5, these are the 2 hills that are on the outsides of the map. And if you can control those 2 hills, then you're probably going to end up winning this map. Big kill over there on the right-hand side. I couldn't see exactly who that was, but there was just a gun battle over here. I think it might have been Aqua that went down. Hard to see as a lot of this is happening, but that was a big win. So what happens is that this normally is a left side versus right side thing, right? You're either spawning on the left side or the right side. Now, if you're Chicago and you're able to push up, that would spawn your enemy out towards mid-map. So now that LA is pushed through on this right side, this is where that left side, right side thing's going to happen. But there's only a couple choke points. So if you're LA and you're spawning over here mid-map, then you can either go mid, you can go up top, or you can go that right door. So there really are only 3 choke points that you have to watch, and Chicago's doing a fantastic job of being pushed up on both sides. So if Chicago wasn't pushed up, Chicago is spawning on the left, but they're pushed up into mid-map, and for a second there, they were pushed up over towards open cargo. And the fact that they were pushed up on both sides, that's what kept LA spawning right in the middle of the map. And that's why all of those points were able to go Chicago's way. When this first started, I didn't really quite understand this map selection because this is by far one of Chicago's best maps. If you had to pick, you'd want to play them on a map like Hackney Yard or something like that where they're not quite as strong. But yeah, every time they play this, they hardly ever lose this. This is a nice job by Scump. So if Scump can turn around and get that pinch there. So Scump did a really nice job there. So as this rotated to P3, Scump did a nice job of just hiding in the smoke and pushing up into outside pipes here. But as LA pushed through, Scump should have went backwards and killed them from behind. They should have pinched there. If they would have pinched, they would have got the majority of that time. But as this last 20 seconds rolls off the clock here, what you're noticing is a strong presence from Chicago back here in P5. And that's all that they're looking to do. Even though they only need about 34 points to win, they still want to hold down that spawn, just because they could realistically give up all 60 of these points and still have a 40-point lead over LAG as it went back to P5. So most important thing, of course, you want to battle over P4 in the current hill, but most important thing, just hold down those spawns. Big battle back here. That's a big battle. So it does look like, was that Formal? Does look like Formal went down. So another big battle. This is about to be traded out, and they win again. So Decimate with a massive 2-piece back there. He killed Formal, he killed Gunless, and then finally Envoy is able to rotate back. So Envoy spawned over here at P3. He was able to go back through and pick up that win, and that win was what allowed Chicago to hold down these spawns. So again, as I'm breaking this down, I'm not really even watching what's happening in the hill because it's kind of pointless. As you go throughout these hills, whatever happens for spawns for P2 and whatever happens for spawns for P5, that's really all that matters. So these last 8-9 seconds or so that's happening inside P4, this doesn't really matter at all. So if you're Chicago, you'll get these last couple seconds, but again, it's not important. This is what is important. So rotating to P5, there's somebody pushed up here. Looks like that's Envoy. Now, if you're this arrow, you would like to be pushed out just a little bit so you could get kills in boxes and on ADOM as they're rotating in. But this is looking like it's about to be over and fairly quickly. So 4 seconds left. There's a couple more people as Envoy gets a 2-piece of his own teammates, but that's going to be all she wrote. Again, as I went into this one, I was a little bit shocked that they would have picked this map just because this is such a dominant map for Chicago. If I'm doing the map vetoes for LAG, this would be one of the first ones that I'd veto. In fact, I would rather play Chicago on any of the other hardpoint maps over this one just because they're so good at this one. I do wish we were able to see a final scoreboard here just so we could see who played well, who really fried and led Chicago in this, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to see that. So with that, guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. I really liked doing this one. Again, I don't really understand the map vetoes, but I think that's something that teams will get better at as the year goes on. So if you're new around here, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to leave without hitting that like button. Also, if you have any comments whatsoever, I respond to everything, so make sure you leave them down below. Thank you guys so much. I will check you in the next episode of Esports Analysis.